I feel like the deeper I get into trying to understand what is happening in Gaza, the simpler the explanation gets. And this isn't to undermine those who are, genuine experts in the field, those who spend a lifetime studying geopolitics and understanding the region known as the Middle East, etc. But the more I have looked to get to the root of things, it always comes back to the very same thing. One group of people who wants to wipe out another group of people because of religion or ideology. Simple as that. We can explain October 7th on that, and we can explain what is currently taking place, which is the fact that Hamas is still not willing to compromise. They're not willing to give over the hostages that they took when they instigated this war. Why? Well, because this isn't about a negotiation for them. This isn't about a ceasefire. This isn't about getting the better end of a deal, but instead it is about wiping Israel off the map, wiping the Jewish people out of existence until they get to, as they say, the Sunday people. As they say, they start with the Saturday people, then they get to the Sunday people. And so finally hearing this coming from DJT, who is my guy, a man I voted for, a man I stand behind, I have not deviated from such, though I've had, my criticisms here and there. To finally hear this coming up out of this man's mouth is a godsend. This is the turn of the tide. And I know a host of people who are doing the work that is necessary to wake the rest of the world up. But again, when you have this sort of message coming from a man in this position of power, we're finally seeing that shift that is necessary on a global scale. So let's go ahead and just tap into that video. It is a relatively short video, so I'm just going to play it through and I'll see y'all on the other side.
When you get it down to a certain number, you're not going to be able to make a deal with Hamas.
Hold up.
When you get it down to a certain number, you're not going to be able to make a deal with Hamas, because once they give them up, then they feel that that's going to be the end of them. And what I said is exactly true. They had a routine discussion the other day, and all of a sudden they hardened up. They don't want to give them back. And so
I know that the words aren't matching the mouth movement, so just bear with me.
Israel's going to have to make a decision. I know what I do, but I don't think it's appropriate that I say, but Israel's going to have to make a decision.
Those final words were the most important in that entire segment. Now, he's saying, again, you essentially can't negotiate because they don't want to negotiate. How does DJT know that? Because he tried to negotiate, as always. And I think that was part of the unfortunate aspect when it came to the United States. Is like, or more specifically, DJT and his administration, is DJT is such a prolific deal maker. And he comes from that world. So sometimes it's hard to separate that, their ideology trumps all pun intended, all deal making. It's not in the question. They want to erase you. When they're crying out death to America and death to Israel, they mean that. And they're not going to be stopped in that. They may pretend, they may lie. They may tell you that they want a ceasefire for the moment. And then the day the ceasefire starts, they go ahead and execute a small minority group known as the Druze and the Christians in that region. They may do that, but they're never going to cease from their end goal. Period. But the most important words there were the final words. That Israel has to make its decision. And if it was him to make the decision, he knows what he would do, but he doesn't feel it's appropriate to say so. That right there said everything to me. And I've been making this point for quite a while now, and I've seen others make a similar point, to say that if what happened on October 7th, 2023 happened to us in the United States, that nation would have already been wiped off the map. I mean, look at what happened to Japan as a result of what? An attack on our military base? That paled in comparison. Now imagine that the equivalent of 1,500 are slaughtered of Americans, which would roughly translate, I believe, into the hundreds of thousands if you were to go, by ratio, by percentage. 250 taken as hostages. Have you seen what America will do for a handful of hostages? Throughout history. For a single attack, minuscule, seemingly minuscule. Do you remember what happened as a byproduct of September the 11th, 2001? If it was us, it would be different. And there's been this conversation about why does Israel have to have a different moral compass than everybody else? Why do they have to be the one feeding the very people that are looking to destroy them, to ethnically cleanse them? Have you ever heard of such a situation where they have to be the hero, the rescuer of the people who are crying out for their own destruction? Now, mind you, the so-called Palestinian people, a majority of them chose Hamas. They wished for Hamas. They wished for jihad. This is the ideology they stand behind. It's not lost on them that this is a religious war, an ideological war that must be fought to the very end, from the river to the sea. What does that mean? It means wipe these people off the map. That's all it was ever about. But again, when we're sold on an idea as opposed to told the reality or the truth, then we get to a place where we are right now. And, I get y'all messages on a daily basis, and I'm thankful to every single one of y'all. As a non-Jew, as a Black American, non-Israeli, non-Jew, they call me a Jew. They call me I guess I would be considered a Zionist because I do believe in Israel's existence or their right to exist. I do. I wholeheartedly believe in that. In the same way, I believe in the right of the people in Gaza to exist. I believe, except for Hamas, right? If you're a terrorizer in that way and you're that heinous, then I believe that you should be underneath the prison. But for the kids and the innocent, etc., I believe in their right to exist. Now, I didn't say as a nation, a made up state known as Palestine that didn't even exist to those people on that region, in that religious fraction, until as recent as the 1960s. No, that's a whole different conversation. Why were they brought into existence in the first place? To carry out the mission of wiping out Israel or the Jew, and then making their way across the waters as they already have in Europe and are making their way into the United States. So you can call me what you want, but when it's all said and done, and this is the selfish aspect of me, because some don't understand outside of he is being paid by Bibi personally, right? He is Mossad or whatever the hell. It's because I understand how macro and microcosms work and how the small influences the larger. I've seen it happen in the quote unquote Black community in the United States, where you have a subculture that is ignored or almost written off because it is small, it is minuscule. It's not really that big of a deal. Even when Thomas Sowell would speak of Black culture, he would speak or refer to it as a subculture. I think today his words might be a little different. I think there will be a shift in those words. Now, though the man is still alive, thank God. But I think it will be a little different sentiment-wise. Otherwise, I've recognized that this is no longer a subculture. It has become the mainstream culture, and it has been the detriment of a people. And it has been effective, not just in a small populace, but most of the populace, and then everybody else around. It is a contagion. It is a virus, and it affects everything around it. If we don't realize that jihadism, that Islam, which is, again, that's just the name of the totalitarian controlling ideology, in the same way Marxism is the very same thing, right? If we're not keenly aware, in the same way we were during the Red Scare and the Cold War, say what you will about America. It's always popular to villainize America, but there was a recognition that communism is dangerous. This ideology destroys, it executes and massacres innocent. It erodes freedom. And if we don't recognize that about jihad, which is making its way all the way across the planet, you're cooked. I'm not down for Israel. Oh, you won't have to. You won't have to. If they didn't continue to do what they're doing and just bowed a knee to Islam in the same way that you see in the United Kingdom and in Ireland and in Germany and different places, if they did the same thing as these weak leader having nations, I'm not going to say weak nations because there are strong people in these nations, but these weak leaders who have bowed the knee, if Bibi did the very same thing on his side, let his people be wiped out, guess who's next? Guess who's next? Guess who gets to have October 7th next? We all think it's not us until it's us. And by the time it's you, now it's too late. Now it's too late. You see your neighbor going through something and you think to yourself, what's that about? Why should I care? As Thomas Jefferson, right there, I keep that book as a staple. As Thomas Jefferson once said, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Eternal. You must always be keenly aware that there is somebody or something, some force of nature out there that is looking to strip your freedom, and you must be willing to stand for it. Sometimes the fight is physical. Most times it is psychological. People have turned in their freedom for convenience, for belonging and acceptance. And this is where they find themselves, on the wrong side of history, actually. You have people who consider themselves as conservatives who are now given over to Marxist ideas, who are now siding with jihadists over those holding Western values in that region. Imagine that. How do you get to that point? Because freedom has a cost. Eternal vigilance. So shout out to DJT for letting it be known. Again, he's going to continue to be called an agent of Israel. He is controlled by Israel. They have blackmail on him, Assad blackmail, all types of nonsense. The conspiracy theorizers will continue to dwell in non-realities because they can't handle that maybe, just maybe, they're not the purveyors of all hidden truths, but instead the truth is looking them right in the face and they're too afraid to confront it for what it is. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace. Aquarius. Where?
I've been up for hours, I've been up for days, you staring at the ceiling, I've been counting strays, you I've been in my feelings, I've been out of mind, I've been getting visions of the other kind. I've been up for weeks, I'm in the count of blessings over count of sheep. I can never be the type to limit when it comes to me. I used to be the pleaser for the people I ain't even need.